Hi, in this lesson, we'll learn how to check and change the data type of a value. So far, we've learned a bit about 4 different data types: strings, integers, floating point numbers, and booleans. We also learned that only certain tasks can be performed with certain types of data. So, is there a way to check the data type of a value? Yes, the type function is built in for just this reason. We enter the value we want to check inside parentheses, and the function will return the type to us. Note, we will learn how we can write our own functions that return values in the next lesson. At this point, we should be able to guess what the type function will return based on the rules we just learned about each type. What type would be returned by this function call? This is a string. We can see that the information returned is telling us that this is of type str. What about this function call? This is an int. And let's try one more. This is a float. We can also use the type function to check the data type of information saved inside a variable. In this case, we have a variable called num, short for number. But is the value really a numerical data type? No, this is a string because it's surrounded by quotation marks. You may be wondering, if I can guess what type these values are, why do we even need the type function? Well, in future programs, we'll learn how to ask users to enter information. And in that case, it may be difficult to know exactly what they typed. So this can be used to check if they have given us the information we are expecting. Let's take a look at using the type function in the editor. Okay, if we write type 12, we expect Python to tell me that this is an int type. Let's run it and see. Nothing's happening. This is because the type function returns the value, but doesn't actually do anything with it. If we want to see the output, we'll need to use it somehow. The way we know we are able to add labels to the screen is using the write command. So let's do that. I'll add write around the type function call and add a font attribute set to Arial and a size of 30 and see if that works. I am getting a label added to the canvas, but I expected it to tell me the type was an int, not undefined. This is a weird functionality of the write command that doesn't make it super useful when using the type function. Is there another way to print out this information? Actually, yes. We have ignored this spot down below the canvas for this entire course, but now it will be very helpful to us. This area is called the console, and it can be used to print messages to the user. Instead of using the write command, we can use a different command called print. If instead we write print type 12 and run this, we can see the type information printed to the console like we expected. Let's go back and learn more about this print command. The print command is super easy to use. All we do is write the word print in all lowercase letters, and inside a set of parentheses, we enter the information we want to print. We said earlier that all the information we want to print needs to be the same data type, so here we are printing a string. But we can also print an int, and it will work the same way. We will learn how to combine these values to print them together in a few lessons. We also talked briefly about the canvas and the console when we were looking at the IDE, so let's make sure we understand the difference. The canvas is where Tracy follows our commands and draws shapes. When we use the write command, the canvas is where the text labels get added. The console is located beneath the canvas. When we use the print command, the text appears in the console. One last thing that will be helpful to know is that we can actually change the data types of values using something called casting. Casting allows us to take a value of a specific data type and turn it into the data type we want. If we have a value that we want to use as an integer, we can surround the value in parentheses and use the int command to change the value to an int, as long as it is possible. For example, we can't ever turn the word cat into a number, but if we have a string of the number 12, we can use the int command to turn it into an integer, and it can now be used in mathematical expressions. When we print it, we would just see that value in the console. Similarly, if we want to turn a value into a string type, we can use the stir command. Pretty much anything can be turned into a string, so this command is super useful when we want to combine items in our print statements. We can take the integer 12 and turn it into a string, though when we print it alone, we won't see any difference. Just trust me that this will be important in the next few lessons. The last thing we can do is use the float command to turn a value into a float, as long as it is possible, meaning it needs to be a number of some sort. If we take our number 12 and turn it into a float, when we print it, we will see that it has been given a decimal point value. This can be helpful when you write more complex Python programs in the future. In this lesson, we learned about data types and how to use commands to check and change the data type of a value. We also learned about the console and how the print command can be used to display text in this new location. Now it's your turn to write some programs using these concepts.